Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's training industry product demo sponsored by CYPHER Learning, how to design effective skills development strategies using an LMS. I'm Sarah Gallo, Senior Editor at Training Industry, and I'm happy you could all be with us today. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes here. First, I'd like to go over some housekeeping items with all of you to help you interact with our speaker and get the most out of the program. Of course, we hope you'll be interactive during today's event. Pop those questions and comments into your chat window and your questions into your Q&A window. We'll address all of your comments and questions either during the event or at the end of the session during the Q&A. Today's event is also being recorded, so you will be receiving a follow-up email from us with a link to that recording and the slides from today, so you can share those with your colleagues who weren't able to attend. And lastly, you'll notice that a brief survey has popped open in your browser after today's event. So please make sure to let us know your feedback on the content, speaker, anything else that you would like to share with us. If this is your first webinar with Training Industry, a special welcome goes out to you. Here at Training Industry, we are the most trusted source of information on the business of learning. If you haven't done so already, make sure to check out our award-winning magazine and articles on trainingindustry.com, as well as our award-winning podcast, The Business of Learning, our suite of Training Industry courses, and our original research. You can find all of these resources now at trainingindustry.com. All right, well, without any further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Graham Glass. Graham Glass is the Chief Executive Officer and founder of CYPHER Learning, a leading provider of learning platforms for organizations around the world. Graham is a serial entrepreneur, educator, and published author with a track record for innovation. He spent most of his career in the enterprise software space and always has a passion for education. With that, Graham, I'll let you go ahead and take it away for us.
Super. Hey, thanks a lot, Sarah. So first, I'm just going to introduce a little bit more about myself and then tell you a little bit what we're going to focus on today. So as Sarah mentioned, I love education. And a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is kind of guided by my own experience teaching literally thousands of people over the course of my career. So I did my undergraduate work in the University of Southampton, so you might detect a bit of a UK accent. And then after I finished my undergrad in computer science, I went to UT Dallas. So I was out in Texas working on my graduate degree, and I got invited by the university there to start teaching. And I had absolutely zero teaching experience, no formal education in instruction whatsoever. And I turned up on the first day with literally a napkin with a few notes in it, and my lecture went great. And since then, I've never looked back. I've always enjoyed teaching both at higher education, and then I formed a professional training company teaching thousands of students all over America and building up a very strong instructional training team. So about 10 or so years ago, I had sold my previous company and I had the luxury of deciding, what am I going to focus on next? And I decided I was going to focus on the intersection of education and high tech. And one of my beliefs is that the field of education is fairly underserved when it comes to beautiful, easy to use technology. So I thought I could make a splash there. So I had to decide what's going to be the direction of the company. Do we focus on business? Do we focus on K through 12? Do we focus on higher ed? And in the end, we decided we were going to create a single underlying platform, the CYPHER Learning platform, and have branded versions. So obviously, we're more oriented around business. So today I'm going to be focused on Matrix, which is the branded version for businesses. But we also have a version branded for K through 20 called NEO. And the nice thing is over the last 10 years, we've been able to monitor what's going on and trends in both K through 12, higher ed, and business. So we have a pretty good idea about what's going on in the world and what might happen over the next 5 to 10 years. Obviously, I'm going to focus more on what's the trends happening in business, but every now and again, I'll also share some of my insights from the world of K through 20. So one of the very cool things, by the way, for CYPHER Learning is and we're about to do a press release, is that our NEO platform got chosen for adoption for an entire Middle Eastern country, not just a school district, but literally the entire country. And we've been working with their ministry on a lot of leading edge ideas, which I'm going to demonstrate to you today in the world of Matrix. So we got our fingers in a lot of pies, but it is cool. There's a lot of very nice stuff going on in the world of education. Now, one of the things about CYPHER Learning is that we are actually growing pretty fast. We're in 20 countries. So we have our own need for advanced training. So when somebody joins our company, the question is, how do we rapidly onboard them? If somebody has a particular job title, like a marketing specialist, how do we make sure that they're getting all the training that they need to excel at their job? If they have a particular career path and they want to move from marketing specialist to like a brand designer, then how do we allow them to move in that direction in a self-paced fashion? So those are not easy things to solve. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how we go about attacking all those particular problems, because the problems that face us are very similar to the problems that faces pretty much anyone else with a non-trivial size company. So first I'm going to show you just a very simple slideshow. So this just takes a second here. This is only going to last a few minutes, but it'll give you a gist of it. So once again, my name is Graham Glass, how to design effective skills development strategies using an LMS. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the way it used to be done, the way it's currently being done, and then the way that it's going to happen in the future. So it's kind of like a little tour through the history of skills development. Oops. This is a little bit about me. I don't want to bore you with anything more about it. A little bit about CYPHER Learning. As I mentioned, we've got millions of users. We've got branded products for both schools, universities, and businesses. 23 offices around the world. So truly a distributed global company and used by over 20,000 organizations. And today I'm going to focus on Matrix, our LMS for businesses. So I'm more of a show and tell guy than I am a slideshow guy. So in just a minute, I'm going to change my screen and we're going to delve right into showing you how to develop skills with your employees. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch my screen again. And I think I can just go here. And so hopefully what you are seeing right now is it says CL Skills. So this is just our own platform Matrix, and we just branded it for CYPHER Learning Skills. But as I mentioned, the phrase is eating your own dog food. This is what we use to actually train and help develop the skills of our own employees. So I'm going to start by logging in. And what I've done is I've disabled a lot of the advanced features so I can focus on this is the way that people used to do training. And so I'll tell you a little bit about how they used to do it and then the pros and cons of the older approach. So this is the dashboard of an administrator who also happens to be an instructor. And the general idea is that you would create courses for training purposes. And like I say, this is more kind of the older approach. So for example, let's just take a scenario where we've got a fictitious user. So this is going to be the user called Sammy Carroll. And Sammy Carroll is a marketing specialist for CYPHER Learning who just joined the company. So in the old days, the question is, well, how would you train Sammy into become a marketing specialist? So what you would probably do is you probably create a course, and I'm just going to go and find the particular course here. Marketing for sales, let's just say. Oh, marketing specialist training, here we go. So here is a traditional course built to allow someone who's a marketing specialist to get trained. So what you would typically do, you would create a series of modules. And in our particular case, these modules are tiles. So we try and make it quite Apple-esque and quite attractive. Each one of these tiles would contain multiple sections. So for example, if I click on design work guidelines, I can see here, this is an assignment, writing an essay about what you want to do. This is a little bit of information about the team that you're joining. And you would basically construct the course as if it was a book. So you would go module 1, section 2, module 2, so on and so forth, until you had completed the course. And throughout the course, there might be a mix of assignments, which could be written assignments, they could be surveys, they could be quizzes. And when you get to the end of the course, if you've hit some kind of threshold, like maybe you've got more than 20%, no, more than 80%, then you would be considered to be completed the course, and perhaps you would get a certificate of completion. So that is a pretty standard, traditional way of providing training through canned courses, where there's the concept of a pass or fail. You know, if you fail, you just take it again until you succeed, and then you get your certification. And when I was teaching at UT Dallas, this was pretty much the way that all the courses were run. Now, interesting question is, what are the pros and cons of that approach? Now, a pro is, it's really easy to understand. I want to be a marketing specialist. There's a course called How to Be a Marketing Specialist. You just go through the course, and if you do good, you get it completed. But there are some problems with this as well. So for example, let's just say that you're having problems in the course, like there's one particular module that you're just not able to pass. It's really, really hard to know where you're getting stuck. All you would be able to see as a manager outside is they haven't passed or they're passed. Or if I was an instructor, I might go down to learners, get a list of the learners and go, hey, they're doing great. But if they weren't doing great, then the question is why? So one con is you don't get a very fine-grained idea of your strengths and weaknesses. You just get like a pass or fail. Another issue with a course like this is that they're not very engaging or interactive. Now, I think in the past, when people were used to software that wasn't that entertaining, that probably wasn't a problem. But as I'm sure you all know, especially with you, especially those of you with children, is that people these days expect content to be a bit more fun and engaging, and they want games, and they want pop-ups, and they want words of encouragement, and they want community. Whereas a majority of these courses that were built were relatively boring. Somebody would upload a PowerPoint or a PDF or a video, and you would just go click, 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 click until you're done. So another problem is it's not really fun. It's not very engaging. And the last thing is, and especially during the pandemic, a lot of people started to feel a little bit lonely and disconnected because they would be taking courses from home, and there would be no sense of community at all. Like, as far as I know, it's just me taking this course. Maybe there's 50 other people taking it at the same time, but I would have no idea. So you kind of start feeling a little bit isolated. Nevertheless, this is the way that courses were done in the past. And my guess is that maybe 90% of courses are still built this way. So in a minute, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a step in the right direction, which actually addresses a bunch of those cons. But before I do that, I want to go back to Sarah, and we're going to do our first poll. So Sarah, if you could pop up the poll, please. So what is your top skills development challenge? Is it offering efficient training with good results? The current training delivery methods need improvement, kind of like what I just showed you. A lack of personalized training, or finding ways to engage learners. So these are basically getting an idea about what kind of challenges you currently face.
All right, everyone, take a few more moments, pop your answer into that poll on your screen.
If I was going to pick one, because I can't vote, I'd probably say lack of personalized training, but I can't vote, so that's just me.
Well, let's find out. There you go.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So it's like a neck and neck all the way down. So lots of the correspondents having difficulties in various areas. Super. Well, that's good to know, because I'm going to address some of those issues right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to enable a few more of the cooler advanced features on this platform and kind of show you ways that people are improving. But I'm saving the best for the last. So I'm not going to show you kind of the more advanced stuff. So I'm just going to go down into our App Center. Oops. and I'm going to install a few goodies. So I'm going to install activity display, and I'll give you a demo of what these are in a minute. I'm going to go down and I'm going to install gamification. And I'm going to go down here and I'm going to install mastery. Okay, so now I've kind of souped up my system with a few clicks. And now I'm going to tell you how each one of these things addresses some of the issues that I mentioned earlier. So the first thing is related to your strengths and weaknesses. So I'm going to go back now to that marketing specialist course. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the concept of mastery and competency-based learning. Now, competency-based learning is a general concept which is becoming more and more popular in the last 5 years. But it's something that we've kicked around in academia for at least a decade. And any of you who have used Khan Academy will know a little bit about what I'm talking about. But the general idea behind competency-based learning is when you're looking at a particular topic you want to teach, like becoming a marketing specialist, before you design the course, before you create any materials at all, the first thing that you do is you write down what are all the individual skills that I want someone to master in order to be a marketing specialist. And you typically will group these. So this is what we call a competency group. So in this case, we've created one called Basics of Marketing. And when you say, here are all the different things that we'd like you to understand. So markets and competitors, market research, consumer behavior, data analysis, brand consumers, sustainable marketing. And you can just imagine writing this down on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be built using technology. And in fact, when I was teaching at UT Dallas, I would just get out a transparent slide and I would just write down on the slide all these different bits and pieces that I wanted to cover. Now, once you've done that, you can review it with your team. In the case of Matrix, you can create this and upload it to the resources catalog so that anyone in your organization can reuse it. And then what you do is if you're going to teach a course that's going to teach these skills, you connect the two. So within my course and the competencies, I can say, add a competency group, and I can select one or more groups of competencies from our resources catalog. So in this case, I associated Basics of Marketing. So now Matrix knows this course is going to be trying to teach these various different concepts. The next thing that you can do is that when you go into the modules, you can go to a module and you can tell Matrix this module is going to be teaching the following skills. So now Matrix knows, oh, okay, so this module is going to be addressing these particular skills. And when you create an assessment, you can tag the assessment with the skills that it is assessing. So in this particular case, it's already been done for me. So this particular assessment is covering quite a few skills. And depending on the grade for the assessment, that will give me an idea of how well you are understanding these particular skills. So what you're doing is you're tagging the modules and you're tagging the assessments with their associated competencies. And once you've done that, you actually get a lot of really good things. So firstly, I can click on coverage and I can find out how well is this course teaching and assessing its associated competencies. So you can see this is not a very good course right now. I'm actually getting a pretty poor rating in a lot of areas. One question is why? So if I click on competencies, you can see here that I am, for example, assessing competency 2.2, but I am not actually teaching it anywhere, which is clearly a problem. So what you would do is before you release this course, you would make sure that you are covering, and so you were teaching and you were assessing each one of those skills. Now, obviously, there might be places where you assess the skill 3 times or 4 times, which is probably a good idea, because maybe somebody just lucked out one time. But if they get really good competency ratings 4 times in a row, that means that they really have mastered this. What you can also do is you can track now how the learners in your course are doing in all those various competencies. So if I click here on learners, I only have one particular student, this demo course, but I can see that they're actually getting pretty good ratings now in most of the competencies, like 99% or 100. But product positioning so far, they haven't demonstrated any mastery. So what you're doing here is that rather than just saying to someone, hey, you've got a B+, you're doing great, or you've got an A-, now you're saying, in data analysis, you've got 100%. In consumer loans, you've got 100%. In marketing 2.0. And now you're getting a much finer grained understanding of how well this learner is understanding this particular concept. Now, another thing worth mentioning is you can teach and you can assess this concept in more than one course. So you might have a course called Brand Strategies and a course called Advanced Marketing, and each one of those has assessments which is measuring the same competency. So the idea is that you're gradually putting together a picture of this learner through all the different courses that they're taking to be able to create an overall picture of that learner's competencies. So first of all, now we've got a much better way to track exactly the strengths and weaknesses of the learner. And I'm going to show you how that becomes very important in the next generation of learning. The second thing that you can do is you can gamify the system. So for example, let's just say that I want to have a fun game. Now, I wouldn't actually call it my fun game, that's kind of silly, but let's just say I want to have a game. And in my game, I'm going to have 3 levels, junior. And to become junior, you have to get 100 points. And I'm going to have senior. You have to have 500 points. And then just something silly. And people use all kinds of silly terms named after storms or under famous people. I'm going to say genius is 2,000 points. And the general idea is that we want to encourage people to hit certain milestones and do good and potentially compete against each other or compete against teams as they take these various courses. So notice how easy it was for me to create a game. The next question is, well, how do I award points and badges in my game? So the way that you can do that is something called automation. Now, I'll take a step back and tell you what I mean by automation and why we spend so much time investing in this in CYPHER Learning. So when I was teaching at university and I had taught courses, I kind of knew that there were certain key points in my courses where I would give a little pop quiz, and when people did good in the quiz, I would give them words of encouragement. And maybe I would say, hey, if you do really well in this quiz, you can skip the next lecturer. So I would have these kind of rewards and fun things throughout my course. But if you're going to create a course that people can take anytime, anywhere, then clearly the instructor can't personally be there giving out these various words of encouragement. So automation is a way to set up rules and actions so that you can script your educational journey. So for example, let's just say I want to say when somebody enrolls in the course, so I'm going to the administrative area, and I'm going to say when you enroll in the course, I'm going to give you 20 points just to get started. So I can say when you enroll, do the following thing. Now, automation is a very general thing. I can use this throughout the system. This is just really scratching the surface of what's possible. So I'm going to give you an award. Specifically, I'm going to give you 20 points. And the game is going to be called My Fun Game. Because you can have games within learning pathways. You can have games that span courses. You can have private games. There's a lot of different kinds of games you can have. And I'm even going to customize this here. And I'm going to say, dear @user first name. And then it automatically fills in the rest. So with a couple of clicks now, I've organized things so that when you get enrolled, you automatically get a pop-up which says, hey, you got 20 points. But I can use automation almost anywhere. So let's just say inside this module, under completion, when you complete this, I'm going to give you a badge. Give you a badge, and you can create your own badges, or you can use existing badges from the library. And you can use automation when you do good in a quiz, when you complete a module, when you complete the course, when you get really good at something. You can use automation almost anywhere. So by using gamification, now you can set up these rules that will encourage people so that even if they're taking this at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're seeing points and badges and a little leaderboard where they can see how all the other students are doing. And as I mentioned, you can even group learners. So you have the sales team versus the marketing team, or the blue team versus the red team. Now, here's one interesting thing that was counterintuitive. So we added gamification to our system years ago, and it wasn't clear to us whether anyone would use it or not. So we thought, well, probably the most likely users are going to be kids, maybe followed by universities, and then maybe businesses. That's what we thought. The reality is actually the other way around. Businesses are by far the biggest users of gamification, followed by higher ed, followed by children. And I have absolutely no idea why that is, but that's just one of those counterintuitive things that we've noticed because we've got products in both the K through 20 and the business spaces. So that was a little bit about how to use automation to support gamification. But as I mentioned, one of the big challenges for people is how do you make courses engaging so that they want to come back and enjoy their training? So you can use automation for all kinds of other things. So for example, I can say, when you complete the course, I'm going to give you a certificate of completion. And you can completely customize this, and you're only going to get it if you get over an 80% score. I can also do things like when you enroll, I'm going to send you a follow-up message, send a custom notification. Welcome to my course. Hope you're having fun. And instead of sending it right away, which is like a robot, I might say, I'm going to send this after 10 minutes. So what you do is you set up a kind of a pathway through your course using automation, using gamification, and with mastery. And now you already have created a significantly more advanced course than what I first showed you. The last thing I'm going to quickly show you is the concept of activity display. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my sample user. So I'm going to log in as this user. So this is Sammy. This is the one who's the marketing specialist, and they're in the middle of taking their marketing specialist training. So on their dashboard, here we are, 12% through. And let's just say that they were kind of clicking through this particular course, getting pop-ups, getting games, getting badges, etc. One of the things that you'd like to be able to do is to see what other people are doing. So if I go back to the beginning, what you'll notice is that there's this little green dot flashing right here. Now, this is a way to engage your users and create a sense of community. So if there are people doing things in a course, then this little green dot will start to flash. And the more people there are and the more activity there is, the more it will flash. And similarly, if I go into a particular course, if there are people in a particular module, so I can tell, hey, there are some people doing things in here. And this activity feed will actually spin around and show you what the various other people in the course are doing. Now, right now, I'm the only person in the course, so it's not rotating. But under normal conditions, you'd have a sense of, hey, this is actually a live platform. There's other colleagues doing things here. This makes me feel much more connected to the community versus just being on my own. And here I can see, hey, in my game right now, I haven't got any points, but I can get some pretty soon if I do a few things. And I can also get a sense of the mastery. So as I go through the course and I'm taking assessments, I can give feedback to the student about all the various little nuggets of information that they are mastering. So clearly this simple sample student should feel pretty good about themselves because they've mastered almost everything apart from 4.2 and 8.2. So what I've shown you so far and then I think we're going to do another poll, is I've shown you a little bit about the old way of doing courses, which are they're not very engaging, they're not very dynamic, they just kind of like sit there. And then how to jazz up the courses so that you can use mastery and automation and gamification and activity display to create a much richer and more engaging experience for the learners. There is one other thing that you can do, which I'm not going to spend too much time on because it's like a whole topic in its own right, but it's something called adaptive learning. So the concept of adaptive learning is that you can create a customized experience based on the history of a particular student. So for example, you might say, if you do really good in a quiz, then I'm automatically going to reveal some advanced materials. Or if you're doing very poorly in a particular competency, I might want to reveal some remedial materials. And the way that you can do this in Matrix is by using automation again. So for example, I can say when you complete module 1, I might want to reveal a new assessment or show a particular module which was not shown before. So the general idea is that you can use rules to decide which material the student can see and which they can't see. You can even support things like different learning styles. So if you tag a learner and you say this is a visual learner, then you can say only show this module if they're a visual learner. So I can say, hey, only show this module if they have the tag visual. So there's just a simple example of that. So adaptive learning is a bit more of a advanced topic, so I'm not going to go into it right now, but it is another way that you can additionally personalize the journey through the materials. So before I get to the really fun part, we'll do another poll. So Sarah, if you could do our second poll, please. So poll question, what strategy are you thinking about doing next? Skills development based on competencies, gamified learning programs, using automation, or training based on achieving learning goals?
Right, everyone, again, take a few moments, pop your answer into that poll. 3, 2, and 1. There we go.
It's another even Steven. I think gamified learning programs it wins the race just by a head. But it's pretty cool to see you considering a wide range of options. Super. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the future of skills development using a learning platform. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into the App Center and I'm going to install something called skills development. So scrolling down here, where is it? Here we go, skills development. Now, skills development is part of an overall strategy that we're calling intelligent learning platform. So I'm going to take a few minutes to give you a background on what ILP, Intelligent Learning Platform, stands for. And I'm also going to address the terms LMS versus LXP. So there's a lot of people who are innovating in the world of skills development. And the general idea is we want to find ways to help people to get better at the skills they need, either for the current job or a particular career that they have in mind. And this, by the way, does not apply just to businesses. There's actually a lot of activity in higher ed and K through 12 about how do you help children and students to develop a particular career path or have learning goals that drives their learning experience. And traditionally, LMS, learning management systems, tended to focus more on the bread and butter. Create a simple course, take the course, get certification. And that particular functionality does not lend itself well to a sophisticated approach to skills development. So if you're working for a large company, I'd like to be able to sit down on my computer whenever I want and say, hey, help me to become a brand specialist. and have the platform assist me and guide me towards materials and perhaps other experts in that field. So LMS never really used to do that. So a new product category arose called LXP, which is Learning Experience Platform. And it's a little bit confusing, but learning experience was more about the skills development aspect. So the idea would be, hey, if you just want to create courses using LMS, but if you want to have the concept of learning goals and career paths and recommendations, then buy this other product called an LXP. So you have some companies out there building LMSs and some people building LXPs. However, it seems very, very likely, especially what companies like CYPHER Learning are doing, that these two product categories basically merge, because if you provide an LMS, it's a very natural thing for you to add additional capabilities to provide learning goals and career path advice and career tracking. And companies typically do not really want to buy two products with two user interfaces and two licenses and two everything else if they can get it all seamlessly built into one. So first of all, LMS used to be focused on traditional training, but I think that category is broadening and will subsume what currently is being called LXP. The second thing is that's why we don't really call our system an LMS anymore. If you go to our website, it's Learning Platform, because Learning Platform is something which is a more general concept. And so what we're doing is that we're branding the concept of Intelligent Learning Platform, which says learning platforms are going to become more proactive, they're going to be smarter, they're going to be infused with artificial intelligence and machine learning. They are going to start guiding you to learn whatever you want to learn. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the first version of ILP built into Matrix, which provides two very important core concepts. The first concept is of a learning goal, and the second core concept is recommendations. So I've already installed it, and you might go, well, Graham, you know, what's the difference? Everything looks exactly the same. But if you look carefully, you'll see this new widget. So here are the courses that I'm in, the ones that I'm teaching, the ones I'm enrolled in. And under here is a new one called Goals. And under Goals, we have recommendations. So it really surfaces from a user interface perspective in two new widgets, Goals and Recommendations. And the general idea is that if I want to have a goal, I just click on, I want to add a goal. And my learning goals can be one of two things. I can say, I want to master the competencies associated with a particular job. So I can say, hey, I really want to be a brand manager, or I want to be a content coordinator. So you can pick one or more jobs that you're interested in. And those could be your current job. In other words, I want to get better at what I'm already meant to be doing, or I want to get better and I will have a career path in mind. Or if you want to, you don't even have to pick a job. You can just say, I want to master a group of competencies. So remember earlier on, I showed you we had a competency group called Basics in Marketing. I might just want to say, hey, I want to get good at all the competencies associated with Basics in Marketing. And once you've added these goals, they will show up as active goals, and they will show you what percentage of the competencies have been mastered so far. Now, in a minute, I'm going to go to my sample student and show you a little bit more detail, because that student's actually taken these things. But what happens is that once you've added one or more goals, then the platform knows what competencies that you want to master. So competencies are kind of like the underpinning currency of knowledge that allows all of this magic to occur. So what the platform can do is it can say, let me take a look at what you've currently mastered. So it's tracking that on a very detailed level. And now let's take a look at what your goal is. And it can compare those things and say, hey, these competencies up here, you have not yet mastered. Based on that, what we can do is we can generate automatic recommendations, because we know which competencies are associated with a particular course. And in Matrix, you can actually tag groups with competencies. So if people gather, you can say this particular group contains a lot of people who can help you to achieve certain competencies. And you can also tag individual resources. such as videos, for example, with the competencies that they are teaching. So by linking the competencies that you have yet to master with the courses, groups, and resources that are tagged with those lacking competencies, we can then start generating new recommendations. So in this particular case, it's saying, hey, if you join content marketing course, it will help you with your goal, content marketing specialist. A few other things I'm going to mention before I look from the student's perspective. This is a very configurable system. So for example, if I go to admin skills, this allows the administrator to configure the recommendations engine. So what kind of recommendations would I like to generate automatically? Maybe courses, maybe groups. Let me go ahead and click resources. So if there's a video now that can help you, it's going to start recommending the videos as well. You also have automation control. So you can tell the system, hey, if somebody wants to get a particular job and they master that job, then automatically take one or more actions. So for example, you might want to automatically notify someone's manager that one of their employees has now mastered all of the competencies associated with the job that they want to grow into. So there's a lot that you can do with automation to kind of facilitate this. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to my sample student. So here's Sammy. And notice that even Sammy's profile page, I can click on enrolled and I can see here are all the courses that Sammy is enrolled in and the scores and the mastery. But once I've installed skills development, I can look at what are all of Sammy's goals. So this is the intent of the user. So they would like to get good at brand manager, marketing specialist. They want to get good at content marketing competencies. And this information can be made widely available, including to their managers and to administrators. So you can kind of look at, hey, for all the people who work for me, here are all their learning goals, here are the progress towards their goals. I'm going to get a notification when they achieve their goals. Maybe I want to give them a gift or something. So it's pretty cool being able to measure to see the goals of your employees. So now I'm going to go ahead and log in as Sammy. And as I mentioned, the user interface looks very similar to what it was before, except that now Sammy has goals and recommendations. Now, because this is a real student, you're actually seeing progress. So Sammy would really like to be, well, is currently a marketing specialist. And so far, Sammy has 87% mastery of all the competencies associated with his current job. So I can come down here and I can see all the various data points, all the ones that have been mastered. Product positioning hasn't been mastered. And modern communication channels. And if I want to, I can even click here on details and see where all these competency measurements came from. Because remember, you're measuring competencies all over the place. It could be in a 360 review. It could be in a self-paced course. It could be an instructor-based course. It could be peer reviews. But what it's saying here is that the reason why Sammy has mastered 1.2 is because he got a score of 100 in this particular assessment and a score of 98 in this particular assessment. So it's all totally traceable. You can see exactly how the mastery level was calculated for every single competency. And in addition to just seeing how well you're doing, you can remove this as a goal. Maybe you don't want this as a goal anymore. You can pause it, which means you're no longer going to get recommendations until you resume the goal. You can see a list of the recommendations just for this particular goal. And then there's also a news feed, a resources area, and a Q&A forum, which allows you to post questions about this particular set of competencies and get answers from other people who have the same goals or people who are willing to help. And the Q&A forum is gamified so that you actually get points and badges based on the questions that you post and the responses that you give. So we try to use our own gamification for encouraging collaboration and assistance in these learning goals. And in addition to marketing specialist, Sammy also would like to become a brand manager. So Sammy just added that as an additional goal, and they can click on brand manager, and they can tell, hey, I am 72% towards mastering all the competencies for this new career or this new job that I have in mind. But it looks like Sammy's still got a weakness in the area of market research. And there might well be a recommendation that says, hey, to get better at market research, join this particular group that's got some experts in market research, or take this small course that focuses specifically on market research, or go to some third-party website because there's some really good videos about market research. So the general idea is that individuals can have learning goals. Once we know the competencies associated with those goals, we can start generating recommendations, and the recommendations can generate a wide variety of actions that the student can take. If there are some recommendations that you just don't want to follow up, you can just dismiss them. At that point, they are ignored for the future. Or you can reinstate dismissed ones if you want to go back to recommendations that were previously made. Now, there's a lot more that we have in mind for ILP. So ILP is a more general concept. It's not just skills development. It's just not goals and recommendations. It's all about how do you make the platform more proactive and more intelligent. So in subsequent iterations of ILP, we're going to be adding some AI and machine learning for doing things like automatically detecting when learners are struggling and maybe automatically offering advice. In the world of K through 20, this is particularly important because a lot of universities are very sensitive to people who drop out because they weren't, because the problems that they were having were not detected far enough in advance. Some of the machine learning and AI recommendations will be associated with how you construct your course in the first place. So if I want to build a new course and I know what competencies are going to be involved, the system can start recommending me third-party materials, videos, experts to involve in the creation of the course, so that actually make you more efficient as an instructor. So once again, there's a lot of things involved with ILP, but hopefully this has given you a pretty good idea about what's already possible. So at this point, I'd just like to summarize, what I've shown you guys. We started off with kind of like the past of skills development, which was you just create these courses. They're usually fairly passive. You usually just get a certificate of completion, and you'll normally have a one-to-one mapping between a course and the particular job title it's associated with. Then we looked at a more advanced set of features like competencies with mastery, automation, gamification, and activity display to show you how you could use these features in various combinations to make your courses much more engaging and to track at a much more detailed level how well your learners are mastering specific skills. And then I finished with how to use the concept of learning goals and recommendations so that in a business environment, people can master jobs they've already got. They can get automatic recommendations on how to master skills in jobs that they would like to get, how their managers can easily see what's going on with the learning goals of their employees. But I also alluded to the fact that there's a lot more where that's coming from with ILP, such as providing automatic detection of at-risk students and also making recommendations on how to create great courses. So at this point, that concludes the formal demo of skills development using a learning platform. So I'm going to stop the sharing and I will take any questions from the audience.
Perfect. Thanks, Graham. We do have quite a few questions for you. Your first one is from Adina, who wants to know if third-party content is easy to integrate into the platform.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. We have a resources catalog. And in the resources catalog, you can upload links to pretty much anything. Third-party courses, websites, YouTube videos, Vimeo, you name it. I think generally this speaks to the idea that platforms to be successful really need to be open. You can plug in SCORM content, you can plug in LTI content. So yeah, we understand that this needs to be very, very open to be successful.
Perfect, great. All right, your next question is from Chris, who wants to know, do we need to meet any specific standards as a company to ensure that training is successful?
No. So for example, our training is really successful at CYPHER Learning, and we haven't implemented any kind of special standard within our own organization. I would say, proof is in the pudding. Whatever ideas you think you've got, it's usually pretty easy to find out whether people are enjoying your courses or not. So I'm one of those people which is all like pretty empirically based. That being said, though, there are definitely best practices. So I would say aligning things with competencies is very quickly becoming a best practice. I would say some degree of gamification is becoming a strong recommendation, but it's generally more under strong recommendations than an actual industry standard.
Great, awesome. All right, your next question is from Christian, who wants to know, what are some of the most important features of your platform that can help develop skills in employees?
Everything I just showed you. but seriously, that's one of the things that I try to focus on in the demo, is the things that were the most important, the highest impact. But those aside, though, a few other things that come to mind is that there's a lot of collaborative software integrated, such as chat rooms, wikis, weblogs, the social networking, there are news feeds, there are 15 different kinds of assessment, probably more than any other learning platform out there. Support for very important third-party standards like LTI, which is learning tools interoperability, the ability to see who's online, to have web conferencing integration. Those are all really useful as well. But I think the ones that I showed you today were the highest impact.
Great, thanks. Awesome, we have time for a few more questions. This one's from Corinne, who wants to know if this type of technology can easily scale as the business grows.
Yes, we have millions of people using our platform. So you could put, literally, as I mentioned, we've actually literally just put an entire country onto our LMS, and it doesn't even break a sweat. So yeah, you can scale up to millions of employees, and it's not an issue at all.
Perfect, great. Well, we have time for one more question. This last one is from Aubrey, who wants to know if the platform is easy to implement in your organization.
It's very, very easy. One of the things that we try to be like the Apple of LMS. We try to make it as beautiful and as simple as a product from Apple, of which, of course, I'm a big fan. And the same technology is available to businesses with Matrix and Neo. And we've got kindergarten teachers who log in, and in the next day, they're actually building courses. We provide all the kind of technical assistance and edtech assistance and everything else that somebody might need. But empirically, a lot of organizations, even really big ones, roll this thing out in a really small time frame.
Very cool. We did have one last question pop in the chat. I think we have time to address that one from Liliana, who wrote in, what would be the main difference from your platform and an LXP?
Oh, an LXP. So I would say Matrix at this point is an LMS plus an LXP. So there really isn't anything that an LXP does that Matrix doesn't do. So the main difference is that we have a world-class LMS as part of our platform, whereas a majority of the LXPs, they're quite strong on the recommendations and the goals part, but they're not world-class from a core LMS set of functionality. And so our goal is to make it so that if you want an LMS or you want an LXP, or ideally you want them both integrated, you can just pick one product, Matrix, and it'll do everything that you need.
Wonderful. Well, with that, Graham, thanks so much for a great demo with us.
My pleasure, Sarah.
Perfect. See Jess's chat. If you're interested in learning more about the platform, you can visit CYPHERlearning.com.
Super. Hey, well, thanks a lot, guys. I hope it was useful for you all. Bye.
Perfect. At this point, I'd like to invite all of you for some other upcoming training industry webinars. This month, you can register for these programs and watch past events now at trainingindustry.com/webinar. All of our webinars and product demos are also pre-qualified for a credit hour by SHRM, CPTM, ISPI, and HRCI certifications. What is CPTM? The Certified Professional in Training Management program is the leading credential for training managers across the globe. You can learn more about how the program can help you master the core competencies needed to deliver great training by visiting trainingindustry.com/CPTM. And don't forget that our next TICE virtual conference is coming up at the end of this month. You can learn more and register now at trainingindustry.com/TICE. Again, Graham, thank you for a great presentation with us today. Of course, a thank you goes out to our sponsor for today's event, CYPHER Learning, and a thank you goes out to all of you for joining us. For now, I'm Sarah Gallo of Training Industry, and I hope you all have a great day.